good Wednesday morning. Welcome back into Factor On to Find Out. My name's Justin White. Happy to be here with you today. Hope everybody's Wednesday is getting off to a good start. It's almost 70 degrees already, ladies and gentlemen. Can't beat that with a stick. Looks like it's 68.5 degrees where I'm sitting right now at World Headquarters in North Jackson, Tennessee, over here in West Tennessee. Your West Tennessee weather. Oh, that's refreshed since then. There we go. Looking like 67 degrees at the airport formerly known as McKellar-Sipes, that'd be Jackson Regional Airport. It's 19 degrees Celsius for those playing along at home. It's going to be a nice day today. A high near 80 degrees, maybe closer to 81, 82. Some parts of West Tennessee for tonight. You have 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms moving in. I'm going to say that a lot of that's going to come in early in the morning into your Thursday. That's what it's looking like to me. Showers and thunderstorms mainly in the morning till around that noon to 2, noon to 3 o'clock tomorrow for your Thursday. Sun's going to come back out, high near 75. Maybe a couple thunderstorms with that one tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. For your Thursday night, rain's going to push out, partly cloudy with a low around 57 degrees. And for your Friday, mostly sunny, a high near 81. Friday nights, whenever some of these thunderstorms are going to move in to the area, possibly up to an inch of rain with some of these storms. They're going to stick around Saturday morning. I think they'll push out probably by midday, late day on Saturday, clearing out with some hanging around Saturday night. High Saturday near 74. It's going to chill off a little bit Saturday night, low around 46 degrees. And that is your West Tennessee weather. Like I said, it's about 68 here in North Jackson. Feels lovely outside. I was just out there checking it out for myself. I figured, heck, it's 11 o'clock. It's time to at least get outside for a second, right? I'm busy doing show prep for you guys. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can hit me up on the Misfits Market and Expo text line and call-in line. Really appreciate them being a sponsor. That's 731-388-9080 to be a part of the conversation with us. Or you can comment on the video that you're watching on YouTube Live or on Facebook Live. Got the comment section pulled up right, chop. So I see all of you guys' comments coming in. Had some great conversations yesterday with another Justin. Was happy to hear from my buddy Pete Wood. He hollered at us yesterday as well. Always appreciate that participation. But the Misfits Market and Expo 2025, they are the sponsor for the call-in line and the text line today. 388-9080. Again, we really appreciate them. Tell you a little bit about these folks. They got a lot of cool stuff going on down there. They're going to have some special surprise treats. They're going to be going on outside. They've grown so much. I'm so proud of them. They were at the Carl Perkins Civic Center. They just got too big. They got too many vendors going on, so they had to expand. So now they're down at the fairgrounds. Very proud of everything that they're doing down there. The Misfits Market and Expo for 2025. It's going to be a local shopping experience like you've never seen before. It's a one-of-a-kind annual event offering unique products for everybody. They welcome you to come out and explore the diverse range of vendors that they have to offer, from handcrafted art, tattoos, oddities, vintage goods, local food trucks, and so much more. There's some great food trucks. I've seen some of that lineup, and boy, I'm going to get full over the weekend. I'll be there March 29th and 30th doing a live stream. Come by, say hey, why don't you? Spend a little time with me over there. Be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be again at the Jackson Fairgrounds, March 29th and the 30th for the 2025 Misfits Market and Expo. Got a lot of news to get to today. Boy, oh boy, do we have some stuff going on all around this great country and around this beautiful, beautiful rock that we call the Earth. We'll get to all that and more coming up. But you know, we have to start the day out the right way with a little bit of On This Day in History. It is Wednesday, March the 12th, one of my favorite songwriters, James Taylor, was born on this day back in 1948. Year before, in 1947, U.S. Senator Mitt Romney was born. I hear that he has binders full of women and some magic underwear. Born in 1946 on this day, March the 12th, actress, singer, the great Liza Minnelli. And born on this day all the way back in 1922, great American writer Jack Kerouac. Born on this day back in 1922, the year of our Lord. On this day in 1947, U.S. President Harry S. Truman articulated what became known as the Truman Doctrine when he asked Congress to appropriate aid for Greece and Turkey, both of which were facing communist threats. On this day in 2015, passed away at the age of 80, Michael Graves, American architect and designer who was one of the principal figures for the postmodern movement. I think a lot of us will remember this one. Made a lot of news back in 2009. American hedge fund investment manager Bernie Madoff pled guilty to various crimes related to his operation of a Ponzi scheme that was one of the largest in the world, and he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Oh, Bernie Madoff. What a dork. And an all-around kind of evil fella. In 2003, on this day, March the 12th, the World Health Organization issued a worldwide health alert, one of the first in a decade, regarding an illness it later called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, or as we all came to know it, SARS. That struck and affected hundreds of people in China, Hong Kong, and Vietnam back in 2003. Back in 1999, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic became members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also known as NATO. And that was shortly before the group's 50th anniversary. On this day back in 1993, March the 12th, American lawyer and public official Janet Reno was sworn in as the United States Attorney General, becoming the first woman to hold that office. On this day, all the way back in 1940, Finland agreed to Soviet peace terms, including the secession of Western nations, the construction of a Soviet naval base on the Hanko Peninsula, would set in motion the end of the Russo-Finnish War. On this day back in 1933, United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave his first fireside chat. The radio address became a source of hope and security for Americans during the Great Depression and during the Second World War. On this day back in 1930, Mahatma Gandhi, leader of the Indian nationalist movement, began the Salt March, a nonviolent protest against British rule that brought him international attention. Mahatma Gandhi. On this day in 1849, the Sikh army surrendered to the British at the end of the Second Sikh War, conceding to the annexation of the Punjab in northwestern India. On this day in 1831, American manufacturer Clement Studebaker, founder of the Studebaker Automotive Company, was born in Pinetown, Pennsylvania. On this day in 1804, Samuel Chase became the first, and so far only, U.S. Supreme Court justice to be impeached. See, we can do it. We can impeach Supreme Court justices. There's a precedent for that. Second to last on this day in 1613. Let's go all the way back to 1613. Andre Le Norte. Notre. That's right, Notre. It's French. One of the greatest French landscape artists and architects whose masterpiece is the Gardens of Versailles. He was born in Paris. I'm listening to a really, really interesting podcast right now about Versailles and when they moved the Parisian capital to Versailles and why they moved the Parisian capital to Versailles. Quite interesting. This will lead us into Canada Day, Calendar Day. What days are on the calendar to be celebrated today? March the 12th. Because back on this day in 1912, Juliette Gordon Low, she formed the very first troop of American Girl Guides, which later became the Girl Scouts. She founded that back in Savannah, Georgia. On the calendar today, what should we be celebrating? March 12th is National Skin Barrier Day. Basically, put stuff on your face. And the rest of your body too, and your skin. But put stuff on your face. Protect your skin. I'm a little dried out this morning, so I need to put some on my skin. My nose and my face are all dry. It's also National Working Moms Day. National Working Moms Day is March the 12th. It's National Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day. That is the second Wednesday in March, which happens to be today. It's also National Baked Scallops Day for all those who celebrate. I've had a good scallop a time or two, but I got to be honest with you. Never been a go-to, right? It's never been something I thought, ooh, I'm sitting around, I could go for some scallops. Again, I've had some that were okay. They just seem very overhyped, in my opinion. Maybe a little more expensive and a little more overhyped than what they should be for what they are. And maybe it's just because I've never had a really good scallop. I'm not certain. But maybe I've just never had a scallop worth the hype. Today's National Plant a Flower Day. As we approach full-on springtime coming our way, daylight savings already kicked in. Hell, it's almost 69 degrees. 69 nice degrees outside. Brings us to the last one that I alluded to a moment ago. National Girl Scout Day is March the 12th. As a part of Girl Scout Week, National Girl Scout Day on March the 12th honors the history and legacy of Girl Scouting in America each year. Today was the day that it was founded. Girl Scouting in the United States of America began on this day back in 1912, as I said earlier, when Juliette Gordon Low organized the first Girl Scout troop meeting. At this first troop meeting in Savannah, Georgia, there were 18 girls present. For these girls, Juliette Gordon Low organized enrichment programs, service projects, and outdoor activities, as well as, since the time of the first meeting, Girl Scouts has grown to over 3.7 million. The organization's, as I said earlier, was the Girl Guides of America, and by 1920, there were close to 70,000 members, grew pretty quickly. By 1930, there were 200,000 members. Back 5, we hit 3.7 million. Their motto, same as the Boy Scouts, be prepared. Their slogan, same as the Boy Scouts, do a good turn daily. They say, quote, Girl Scouting builds girls' courage, builds their confidence and their character, who all make the world a better place. You might be asking yourself how to observe National Girl Scout Day. You can celebrate all that the Girl Scouts have done to empower girls and what the organization has done for communities across the country by supporting your local troops, Learn more about Girl Scouts' impact on girls and young women. Share your experience with Girl Scouting. Volunteer to be a leader. For more information, see the official website, Girl Scouts of the USA. It's GSUSA. Look them up, visit them, see what they got going on. The Girl Scouts of America. What a good cause. I ate some Girl Scout cookies just the other day. I'm a Thin Mints guy. I like them. I got friends who like the Samoas. I am and for a Thin Mints kind of fella. It's a Thin Mint house. Girl Scouts bake cookies at home to sell. A lot like we had bake sales today. They didn't have them pre-packaged, though, in the way that we have today. In 1922, a sugar cookie recipe was published in the American Girl magazine as a suggested recipe for the Girl Scouts to make to sell the cookies. So that technically is the first Girl Scout cookie was a sugar cookie recipe. National Girl Scout Day. Glad they have it. Founding Day, and the first meeting had 18. From the comment section, hey, it's Justin Lachey. He's back. Said he had to work yesterday, had to head in, enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, asked if I'm still doing music. I am still doing music. I took second place in the Tennessee statewide songwriters competition a couple weeks ago, and I took first place in songwriters competition in Memphis, hosted by the Memphis Songwriters Association and some of those folks. That was this last Sunday in Memphis. Took first place in that. Yeah, I gig around. I did tequilas here in Jackson on Friday. I got some more gigs coming up. The Treyfuls, that's your go-to cookie. The original OG cookie of the Girl Scouts. They're good. It's a good cause. I know that I was a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout, and we did the popcorn. Trails End. I was trying to think of what it was called. Trails End was the brand of popcorn. There was some good Trails End popcorn out there. There really was. I sold a ton of Boy Scout popcorn back in my time in scouting. And it was kind of fun. It was like a competition. See who could sell the most. I enjoyed that quite a bit. That's your weather. That's on this day in history. That's your calendar day, which can only mean one thing. That leads us to a list of some of the crazier stories that I have found around these United States and around the globe. Yesterday we had a gentleman who was trying to smuggle cocaine out of Colombia, Bogota, I believe, under a wig. A fake hair, a toupee. Well, this is out of Newark, New Jersey. A Pennsylvania man who was going through security at a New Jersey airport was found to have a live turtle concealed in his pants. That's according to the Federal Transportation Security Administration, TSA. My guy had a live turtle in his britches. The turtle was detected Friday after a body scanner alarm went off at Newark Liberty International Airport. A TSA officer then conducted a pat-down on the East Stroudsburg man and determined there was something concealed in the groin area of his pants. When questioned further, the man reached into his pants, pulled out the turtle, which was about 5 inches long and wrapped in a small blue towel. At least he was comfy. He said it was a red-eared slider turtle, a species that is popular as a pet. The man, whose name was not released, was escorted from the checkpoint area by Port Authority police, ended up missing his flight. The turtle was confiscated. It's not clear if the turtle was the man's pet or really why he had it in his britches to begin with. Quote, We have seen travelers try to conceal knives in their shoes and their luggage. However, I believe this is the first time we've come across someone who is concealing a live animal down the front of their pants. At least it wasn't a snapping turtle, am I right? That was Thomas Carter from the TSA's Federal Security Director for New Jersey. He says, quote, as best we could tell, the turtle was not harmed by the man's actions. He said the incident remains under investigation, and it wasn't clear if the man would face any charges or penalties. I mean, if it was his and it wasn't like an exotic animal, an exotic turtle, because people will do that. They will try to move exotic pets in all kinds of weird ways, conceal them in all kinds of strange ways to bring them onto an airplane. But nope. This gentleman just had a little turtle in his britches. Is that a turtle in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? You knew that joke was coming. What's Justin say on the comment section? He says, that's awesome, bro. Remember meeting you at Lafayette's. Hadn't been back since that competition. The dispensary keeps me so busy now that I can't hardly find time to gig. That's a shame, man. That is a shame. Congrats. Always thought you had killer music and a great sound. I appreciate that, brother. Oh, I always said you had a killer music and a great sound. I appreciate that. Seriously, thank you very much. I enjoy it. I ran out of time there for a while. Didn't have as much time as I'd like to be gigging. But I'm back, baby. Doing some more gigs again. I enjoy it. It's fun. Had somebody come up to me the other day at that gig and said, you know, it just comes so natural to some people. It's so it's obvious. It just comes so easily to you. I'm thinking, yeah, it took me 32 years. I'm about to be 42. It took me 32 years of playing, starting when I was 10, to make it look just so effortless, so easy. But I appreciated what they meant. I understood what they meant. Let's go over the pond here real quick to London. This is from the AP. They said it was not your typical smash and grab burglary, and the booty was precious. A toilet worth more than its weight in gold. This one-of-a-kind 18-karat gold toilet was swiped in under 5 minutes from the Blenheim Palace, the sprawling English country mansion where British wartime leader Winston Churchill was born. In the pre-dawn hours of September the 14th, 2019, a prosecutor told juries on Monday. Oh, John Lovelace in the comment section says, one of the best band leaders I've ever known. I appreciate that, John, very much. We have fun up there, man. Y'all make it easy. You make it a whole lot easier. John's a great bass player. One of my faves to play with. But thanks for the kind words, John. I'll build you up, and I'll throw your name to anybody looking for a good, solid bass player. Somebody who'll hold down that low end. John Lovelace, he's the man. John, I might have to get you in on Friday, by the way. If you want to come and sit in on the show again, it's been a second. You're more than welcome to come and join me on the show on Friday. Back to the story in London where they stole a toilet. Attorney Julian Christopher said in the opening statement in Oxford Crown Court that it was an audacious raid. One of 3 men on trial in the case of the purloined potty was involved in stealing it, and the other 2 helped to sell the spoils. The toilet has never been recovered, but it's believed to have been cut up and sold. Of course. Of course it was sold. It was sold. It'd be really hard to sell a golden toilet on the open market. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how that would work? It'd be so hard to get, or so easy to get caught, obviously. But you chop that dude up. Someone's going to buy it for the market value of gold, and they're going to smelt it down. Turn it into something easier to move around. Bethany Brandt jumping in here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? I'm hopping on here for a bit. What is up, Bethany? I'm okay. I'm going to be okay today. I tell you that. I got a cup of coffee. I got you guys to hang out with here for the next little bit. I'm here for it. I hope that you're doing well also, Bethany. Tell your mom I said hi. Her mother's Miss No Tech. Just for the record. John Lovelace, too kind, sir. Yeah, man, let's do it. Hey, I'm here for it. Get on in here on Friday. Have a big old time. So back to London to this stolen toilet. The satirical work titled America by Italian conceptual artist Maurizio Cattelan poked fun at excessive wealth. That was kind of his shtick. So this toilet, it weighed over 215 pounds. It was insured for $4.8 million. That'd be 4.8 million pounds. It's about $6 million US dollars. The value of the gold at the time was 2.8 million pounds. That's 3.5 million US. The piece had previously been on display at the Guggenheim in New York. The museum had offered the work to U.S. President Donald Trump during his first term. Gross. After he had asked to borrow a Van Gogh painting. One of the defendants, Michael Jones, he cased the palace twice in the weeks leading up to the theft. Once before the toilet went on display at the Blenheim Palace in London, and then up close and personal once it was installed and fully functional as an exhibit. Visitors to the exhibition could book a 3-minute appointment to use the toilet. Shut up. I was wondering. A 3-minute appointment to use a golden toilet. Both times, Jones took photos of the window that was later smashed to break into the palace. The second time, he also took photos from inside the bathroom, including a photo of the lock on the toilet door. Quote, there can be no doubt that he was carrying out a reconnaissance for the burglary that was to take place that night. That would be enough to make him guilty of count 1 of burglary. But Jones was also probably among the group of 5 men who crashed through the wooden gates of the palace before dawn the next morning in 2 stolen vehicles. They tore across the field in an Isuzu truck and a VW Golf, pulled up to the front steps where they smashed the window that Jones had earlier photographed of the bathroom where this golden toilet was housed. They made quick work of breaking down the toilet door, removed the golden throne from the plumbing, leaving water gushing from the pipes that caused considerable damage to the 18th century building, a UNESCO World Heritage Site filled with valuable art and furniture that draws thousands of visitors each year. I'm sure it's more than thousands. I'm sure it's hundreds of thousands, at least tens of thousands. Jones was in cahoots with James Sheen, a builder he worked for who was part of both the burglary and the effort to sell the gold. Sheen, 40 years fun, previously pled guilty to burglary, conspiracy, and transferring of criminal property. Sheen then worked to broker a deal with Fred Doe and Bora Gukuk to cash in on the haul. In a series of text messages, he referred to the loot as a car, quote unquote. But Christopher said he was actually talking about the gold. He says, quote, I'll link up with you. I got something right up your path. That's what he said in one text message. I can sell that car for you in 2 seconds, so come see me tomorrow, was the reply. Doe, 36, Gukuk, 41, are charged with 1 count of conspiracy to transfer criminal property. All defendants, everyone, has pled not guilty to stealing a golden toilet. Of all the things to try to steal, art. I mean, it's because it's an art installation. But of all the things to try to steal, art seems like it would be one of the more difficult. I mean, they did it. But, I mean, it could not be easy to get away with. I mean, I get why that would be an appealing thing to steal. There's so much gold in it. But sheesh. There's got to be something around that is maybe close in value that you could I don't know. Art thieves. I think that partially, if you say you're going to be an art thief, there's something like romantic about it. It's like some Ocean's 11 style stuff, right? You picture like Mission Impossible. You're rappelling down from the ceiling and you're spraying some fog so you can see the lasers coming across the room, and you're sneaking around. Not that elegant. They just smashed a VW Golf and an Isuzu truck through a wooden gate, broke out a window, stole a golden toilet. They all pled not guilty, and they are going to go to big boy jail. Let's move back stateside here. We're going to South Carolina. A South Carolina man, which we've had a few. We had the gentleman who was getting executed the other day. He did get executed by firing squad in South Carolina this last Friday. Bill O'Neill chiming in. There you are. Another fabulous Swedish Fadobdo Day. That's what we came up with yesterday. Fadobdo. Sounds like a Swedish word. Front door open, back door open. Fadobdo. Fadobda. It really is. It's a beautiful day outside. Open up the windows, open up them doors. If you're around West Tennessee, really probably anywhere on the southeast today, it's beautiful. So out of South Carolina, a man who provided detailed testimony of how he brutally stabbed his friend's ex-wife 35 times was found guilty of murder in prison, despite his claims that the killing was justified because a child was in danger. Zachary Hughes' testimony this week not only led to his conviction, but it gave authorities enough evidence to arrest and charge his friend before Hughes even left the witness stand Wednesday. His friend John Mello could also face life imprisonment. Quote, I've never had a defendant get on the stand with the kind of attitude, ego, cold-faced sternness, and explain a brutal murder in the way that he did. It shook me a little bit. That's what prosecutor Walt Wilkins said after the trial. The body of 41-year-old Christina Parcell was found in a Greenville County home in 2021. Her jugular vein and carotid artery had been slashed. The rose petals strewn on the floor where Parcell's body was found play an integral role in Hughes' murder plot. He held the flowers as a ruse to get Parcell to answer the door. The case involved revenge porn against Parcell and allegations that she and her new fiancé were sexually abusing the child that she had with her ex-husband. Those allegations are why Hughes said he killed Parcell, but Circuit Court Judge Patrick Font III ruled the defense could not bring them up because they were irrelevant to the killing. From the comment section, the Peanut Gallery. Yeah, Matt Altabell, did you say his name was John Mello? Yes, but without the W. M-E-L-L-O. Not a very mellow fellow, if you ask me. Not a very mellow fellow. But yes, that was his name, John Mello. Bethany Brandt, we're in Wisconsin for a couple of days, enjoying the ice cream, dairy, and all the Irish food. Eat some Irish food for me. Get some good cheese up there in Wisconsin. And enjoy y'all's time. Be safe up there. Hughes, 32 years fun, repeatedly defied Fant's ruling, including telling jurors of the relief he felt after killing Parcell. Quote, I knew from the moment on the girl would be safe from the sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating against her. There's proof to that the state is hiding from you. That's what the defendant said, turning towards the jury. Judge Fant immediately halted testimony and sentenced Hughes to 6 months in jail for contempt of court. Who gives a damn? 6 months in jail? He's going to go to prison forever. He stabbed this lady 30 some odd times. I don't really see how that's a deterrent for him to shut up. Contempt of court. I'm going to add 6 months onto your life sentence. Matt Altabell chimes in and says if he knows some older attractive women, you could put me in the John Cougar Mello camp. Well played, Matt. Well played. Parcell's fiance, Bradley Post, 68 years fun, is awaiting trial on child sexual abuse charges. Investigators have not given details about the victims in those cases, but civil lawsuits against Parcell's estate say that her daughter was a victim. As Hughes testified, police arrested Mello, Parcell's ex-husband and father of the child Hughes said he was protecting. They charged him with accessory before the fact of murder and for solicitation of a felony. Mello has been jailed without bond. Now, Hughes told jurors that Mello offered him $5,000, then increased it to $10,000 to kill his ex-wife, but Hughes refuses the money, only deciding to kill Parcell after he was convicted. Oh, I'm sorry. After he was convinced that the child was in danger, he says, all right, I'll do it for free. Mr. Mello also let him know where his ex-wife could be and when she would be alone. That's what Mr. Hughes testified. Mello, 64 years old, says nothing about the case at a bond hearing Wednesday and did not have a lawyer. Oh, gosh, is he going to represent himself? That's never a good look. Because otherwise he'd have a public defender. That's just required. The court appoints you a public defender unless you refuse it to represent yourself. Hughes was a classical pianist. Oh, shut up. He trained at Juilliard. Hughes was a classical pianist who trained at Juilliard, who met Mello in 2020, and they became fast friends as Hughes played music in public during the COVID-19 pandemic about a year before the killing. This was back in 21, whenever this killing occurred. Mello was determined to get full custody of his daughter, and the two started harassing Parcell. The mother, who ended up dying, was murdered, sending her nude photos to her neighbors and to her job. See, now that's the revenge porn stuff. He would take her nudes and send them to neighbors and to her job. On the stand, Hughes detailed the ploy to murder Parcell, in which it included riding a bicycle to her house on a route that he had mapped to avoid traffic cameras, posing as a delivery florist with roses to ring the doorbell. Hughes also described how he stabbed and slashed Parcell after he was scared shooting her would make too much racket, go make a little too much noise. I'm not going to say it's the worst murder plot. There's some holes in it. Not as many as are in Miss Parcell, but there are some holes in it. You rarely have a defendant get on the stand and detail such a heinous crime and a justification that makes no sense, Prosecutor Wilkins said. Lawyers for Hughes said they'll appeal the verdict and the judge's decision not to allow them to present evidence of the alleged sexual abuse. See, that's what gets weird to me, why they won't allow that to be admissible in court. Tina Parcell asked the judge for a life sentence, saying Hughes was offered her sister as a target on a silver platter and that her sister was terrorized by everybody involved in this case. All these men did nothing but use my sister. All of them used her for their own twisted personal gratification. I'm going to keep following this case. I'm curious how this goes because I don't understand why they won't let that be a part of the trial. Is it a defamation thing? Can they just not prove that there was sexual misconduct or abuse of the child? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's not provided enough information to actually make that seem like a credible accusation. We'll follow it. We'll see what comes of it. Let's go to something a little more lighthearted. Got a couple more from across the nation. I've got a couple from, let's go international. Let's do this one. Let's see. Air India, the airline, Air India is urging travelers to use lavatories only, this is quote, to use lavatories only for purposes that they are meant for after a flight to Delhi due to 8 of its 12 toilets. Of its 12? 12 toilets on an airplane. No flight, I'm sure, but Delhi, from Chicago, but that's a bunch of toilets. But 8 of the 12 are clogged. Air India says, hey, use the bathrooms only for purposes they're meant for. Air India AI-126 was about 5 hours into its flight from Chicago to Delhi last Wednesday when the decision was made to return to Chicago as a result of clogged toilets. Once the plane landed, workers discovered that the clog caused by, get this, including plastic bags, rags, and clothing items. Air India spokesperson said in a statement provided to the Times of India that the air airline wishes to, quote, urge passengers to use lavatories only for purposes they are meant for. The spokesperson said that the Chicago flight was only the latest in a series of toilet clogging incidents on the carrier's Boeing. They said employees previously addressed toilet clogs caused by blankets, innerwear, underwear, diapers, amongst other waste. It's so weird. Why? I mean, awful vulgar, but how many folks are shitting themselves? It's not like they're leaving India. They're going to India. I understand if you were sitting there eating Indian street food. I've seen the videos. We all have. If you're eating a bunch of Indian street food, you hop on an international flight, I can understand. We might have some issues. They live in Chicago. Maybe it's all the dogs eating too many dogs. Some Italian beef. In Chicago, maybe they were drinking too much Malort. Regardless, something was going on. Apparently there's been they're calling it. The passengers of the Chicago Delhi flight were provided with hotel accommodations and alternative flight options. Is that punishable? You reckon? Can you punish? Would it be considered like a destruction of property, perhaps vandalism? Or is it just an accident? You would think that anybody who's a grown person would understand that we probably ought not be flushing anything down the toilet other than paper and what comes out your body. That's what I would think, but apparently not. Flushing clothes. Why would you flush a blanket down the toilet? Got a couple coming in on the Misfits Market and Expo text line. That number is 388-9080. Give us a call to be a part of the conversation. So I am going to get to that story from the text line asking about ex-Senator Brian Kelsey of Tennessee. Yes, I will be getting to that story. It's going to be one that is coming up here shortly. This one says, the stock market's down, but at least everything is more expensive and services are getting shittier. On the other hand, we do have more measles. And to be fair, they're finally delivering the reductions in FAA and National Park staff that people have been demanding. I see your sarcasm. If you want to be like that, just to be a part of the conversation. The Misfits Market and Expo 2025. Online 731-388-9080. Let's stay here in the United States. West Virginia football players will need to save their best dance moves for the football field after coach Rich Rodriguez banned the Mountaineers from dancing on TikTok. The Mountaineers coach told reporters about the ban this week at spring practice. Rodriguez, 61 years old, was hired back in December for his second stint as the Mountaineers coach. He led the Mountaineers to a 60-26 mark from 2001 to 2007. They went, after that, let's see, they went 6-7 last season. Fired former coach Neil Brown 12 games into the season. That's never good. He says, quote, we try to have a hard edge. Or whatever. It's his exact quote. And you're in there in your tights dancing on TikTok. It ain't quite the image of our program that I want. West Virginia's football coach of the Mountaineers, banning his players from TikTok dances. He says, quote, everything today is about trying to make everybody individual. It's all about the individual. Football is one of the last things. It's got to be more about the team than the individual, so I banned dancing on TikTok. I guess I did that. Hey, at least he's getting to the heavy hitting stuff. You know, the most important stuff. Sticking with sports here, this is out of New York from the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees dropped their ban on beards this last Friday, 49 years after it was imposed by owner George Steinbrenner in a move aimed to improve player recruitment as the team tries to win its first World Series title since 2009. Current owner Hal Steinbrenner, son of the boss, announced the change Friday before the team's spring training opener in Tampa, Florida. He called the ban outdated and somewhat unreasonable. This generation, the vast majority of the 20s, 30s, and into the 40s men in this country have beards, Steinbrenner said during a news conference, flanked by General Manager Brian Cashman. It's part of who these young men are. It's part of their character. It's part of their persona. Do I totally relate to that? It's difficult for me. I'm an older guy who's never had a beard in his life. But it's very important to a lot of them. They feel it defines their character. I don't know if I go that far. It doesn't define my character. It just hides my darn face. George Steinbrenner announced the facial hair policy during spring training back in 1976, mandating no long hair or beards. But mustaches, however, were allowed. Players complied with some push boundaries by going unshaven or letting hair fall over their collars. Rebels, every last one of them. One last story before we get into the serious news. I've heard a couple people talking about this. I saw it on a podcast, heard it on a podcast the other day, and I wanted to look more into it. This is out of rural Pennsylvania. I'm not sure how I feel about it, so let's dive right in. This is out of Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. The buffet line inside the fire hall in rural Pennsylvania was a familiar sight last weekend as a crowd of about 150 folks heaped dinner onto their plates before sitting down to eat. They're going to listen to a little live music and wait for the raffle to start. So far, pretty normal. Aside from a couple of vegetable dishes that were largely ignored, the food being served at the Taste of the Wild outdoors dinner inside the Pine Grove Hose. Let's see, the Pine Grove Hose, Hook, and Ladder Fire Company was anything but standard fare. The menu of 14 species that included stingray casseroles, bear stew, raccoon andouille, and rabbit kielbasa was the centerpiece of a 12-year-old event organized by Larry Primo, the volunteer rescue captain, and the man with the cooking chops. A network of sportsmen's friends needed to pull it off. There was roasted gray squirrel, bobcat lo mein, wild boar ham, and coyote teriyaki on a stick. And the mystery meat this year, as a boy in the crowd correctly guessed, was alligator. For the less adventurous, there was also venison and salmon. In previous years, dishes have included wood duck, snapping turtle salami, smoked eel, beaver shepherd's pie, goose and sauerkraut, and groundhog chili and chorizo. Jim Jastrzynski braved the slushy weather, traveled about 74 miles from his home in Kingston. His takeaway, he rated the bobcat as, quote, very tender. I'm good on all that. I got to be honest. I had another text come across on the 2025 Misfits Market and Expo text line asking about Brian Kelsey as well. Yes, I'm going to get to Brian Kelsey here in just a moment. What a dork. Just a real doofus. And a flip-flopping and a liar. Dude is straight up a liar. Not surprised. He is one of the MAGAist MAGAs that there is out there. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. That's totally fine. This story is coming from the Tennessean. It's all over Tennessee media right now. This broke yesterday late. Brian Kelsey is receiving a pardon from President Donald Trump. Let's get into it. Brian Kelsey says he's received a pardon from President Donald Trump just 2 weeks after the former state senator reported to federal prison to serve a 21-month sentence for an illegal campaign finance scheme that he pled guilty to back in 2022. He's from Germantown, Tennessee, not the Nashville one, the Memphis one. Kelsey, Republican from Germantown, reported to a federal prison in Kentucky in late February after exhausting a string of appeals and last-ditch legal efforts to either overturn his guilty plea or delay his prison reporting date. He had already been serving 2 weeks. And he makes this statement. Go on this journey with me, won't you? Kelsey says, quote, God used Donald Trump to save me from the weaponized Biden DOJ. This afternoon, I received a full and unconditional pardon. Form an act that even my chief accuser admitted I did not commit. Yeah, but you said you did. I can tell I have never pled guilty to something I did not do. Now, I've said that I didn't do things that I did, but I've never, ever pled guilty to something I did not do. He says, thank you for all your prayers. Praise the Lord Most High. May God bless America despite the prosecutorial sins committed against me, President Donald Trump, and others the past 4 years. And God bless Donald J. Trump for making America great again. You got to be the Simone Biles of mental gymnastics to think that you're on the right side of history, you're God, just any sort of ethics, morals. If you are praising Donald Trump, saying that he has been put there by God, what a godly fella. Also, the fact that, like I said, you pled guilty to that, my guy. So let's dive into it a little bit. Kind of funny here because though Kelsey is repeatedly alleged that his criminal charges were the result of a, quote, weaponized DOJ, Department of Justice, under President Joe Biden's administration, that's odd. Because federal prosecutors began investigating him for these campaign finance violations during Trump's first administration in 2019. So the guy who pardoned you, his DOJ is the one that came after you. Your own people. Doofus. A federal grand jury back in 2021 indicted Kelsey in the campaign finance scheme related to his failed 2016 congressional bid. Prosecutors alleged that Kelsey illegally shuffled money from his state Senate campaign committee to his federal campaign, and that's illegal. In November of 2022, after his co-defendant pled guilty in the case, Kelsey pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to defraud the federal government and another count of aiding and abetting the acceptance of excessive campaign contributions. But months later, Kelsey tried to reverse course, attempting to withdraw his guilty plea, take the case to trial. Of course he did. The former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee and career Georgetown-educated attorney told a judge he was unfamiliar with the criminal justice system and stressed about personal matters. When he entered the guilty plea, he was stressed. So, just to clarify here, real good and clear. Georgetown educated and an attorney and the former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee said that he was unfamiliar with the criminal justice system. I wonder how he got there. He must have been a DEI hire. The federal judge did not buy the argument and declined to allow Kelsey out of his guilty plea. Kelsey was later sentenced to 21 months in prison, below what the actual sentencing guideline range is. So he got out better than he should have, but yet somehow, Donald Trump found it in his heart of hearts to cut the man a break. Make America great again. Give full unconditional pardons to people who are breaking finance laws, campaign finance laws. I guess they all keep good company. Let's stay in the state of Tennessee right now. This is from WKRN out of Nashville. They passed a bill yesterday in the Tennessee House. No, it was on Monday. They passed it on Monday. Candy and soft drinks could soon be prohibited for low-income families paying with SNAP benefits. In the state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Health SNAP Act would require the Department of Human Resources to submit a request for a waiver from the United States Department of Agriculture's Food and Nutrition Service to seek authorization to prohibit the use of SNAP benefits for the purchase of candy and soft drinks. And the bill passed in Tennessee at the House on Monday. Sorry, give me a second. I'm looking at something here real quick. Double checking the stream is what I'm doing. Okay, good. Had a little glitch thing pop up here, and I thought something was messing up with the stream. It is not. We are good to go. Oh, goodness. Now I've opened a can of worms. I clicked it too many times. There we go. So this passed the State House on Monday. Says, quote, "This is spring break for Metro Nashville schools. Can you imagine a family that's dealing with 6, 5, 4 kids? They can't get any junk food." And that's what Mr. Hereford, a shopper in Germantown, told Germantown News 2. It was a sentiment for several shoppers News 2 spoke with on Tuesday. However, those for the bill said that the goal is to provide healthier options for families that rely on Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP. Quote, "Kids on SNAP consume 43% more sugary drinks than those not on SNAP, according to the latest reports we have," said the bill's sponsor, State Rep Jason Zachary, a Republican out of Knoxville. He said that during a February committee meeting. Zachary said similar bills are being supported nationwide by the Trump administration. Quote, if all we have are SNAP benefits, because we're all struggling and because of inflation, you cannot tell me what I can and can't eat," said Teresa Riddle, who uses SNAP benefits. Riddle said she's been using SNAP benefits for the last 6 months. She says sometimes it's still not enough. Shoppers on Tuesday said lawmakers should not dictate how families choose to shop. What do you think? If you're on SNAP, or even perhaps WIC, Should the government tell you how you use that money, those subsidies? One shopper told News Channel 2 out of Nashville, health choices are an individual choice. Who are they to legislate morality? If someone wants to spend their own money, this is from Zachary, the gentleman who put the bill up. He said if somebody wants to spend their own money on Coke and candies, they can knock themselves out. But at any time when someone participates in a government program, we have a say on what that money is spent on. The bill passed the House floor on Monday, but remains in a Senate committee. I don't know. I feel like that should go both ways. I feel like as soon as you start using our tax dollars the way that we want them to be, and you start voting the way that the majority of Tennesseans want you to vote, and you decide to participate with us and let us have a say on how our money is spent by the state of Tennessee, then maybe you get to start having a say on what that money's spent on. As it appears to me right now, there's not really a lot of oversight into what you spend that money on of ours. So do with that what you will. But should the government, if they give you SNAP, have any say in what you spend that money on? Let me know what you think. You can text in or call in 731-388-9080 or comment on the video you're watching right now on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. It is 12:05, coming up on 12:06. 71.6 beautiful degrees right now in North Jackson on your Wednesday, March the 12th. I'm going to take a quick pause for the cause real quick here. We will be right back after this.
on fire, and now I think I'm ready to bust a move. Check it out, I'm rockin' steady, go. Betty won't stop listening to modern rock. She hates to be alone. I try to compensate her lack of love with coffee cake, ice cream, and a bottle of $10 wine. She says, hey, I rock the horror sport, I rock the cowgirl blues, I rock too fast for love, I'm footloose in my Velcro shoes. What's up with Will and Grace? I don't get drowned in bass, the future freaks me out.
Welcome back into the show, Factor Around and Find Out. My name is Justin White, 12:15 on your Wednesday, March the 12th. If you want to be a part of the conversation, as always, hit us up on that 2025 Misfits Market and Expo text and call in line, 731-388-9080, to be a part of the conversation. We made it up to 72 degrees right now in North Jackson. Got some weather coming in this weekend, Friday night into Saturday. It's going to rain some tomorrow. Possibly a thunderstorm. Gonna need the umbrella, as they say. A little bit of Motion City's soundtrack. The Future Freaks Me Out to bring us back in. That's another Justin right there, Justin Pierre. All right, I got to be really honest with you guys. I see a lot in the news. I hear a lot of friends talk about it when it comes to LGBTQ plus issues. I hear people talking about it all the time. It's difficult, it seems, for some people to wrap their head around the fact that somebody wants to be called something else, which is ironic because a lot of those same people are just fine with changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico, calling it something different. And I understand they'll say it's different because that's a person, those are people, the other thing's a body of water. I get that. I get where they're coming from. What I don't get is how if someone wants to be called something else, how that affects you. Do I have to understand it? No, I do not. I don't. But if my buddy Jeff with a G decides that he wants to be called Mike, okay, I'll call you Mike from now on. If my buddy Mike wants to be Rachel, I genuinely do not care. I've got bigger things going on in my life. And if I respect that person or I care about that person, well, sure. I'll call you whatever you want to be called. Again, it doesn't affect me. But you know who it does affect? It affects Jeff with the G. It affects Mike. It affects Rachel. And that just seems, to me, to be pretty common sense. Again, in my opinion. Well, we have our first transgender congressperson, Sarah McBride. Republican Keith Self abruptly adjourned a House committee hearing after a Democratic congressman called him out for deliberately misgendering Representative Sarah McBride, who again is the first transgender member of Congress. Tuesday's House Foreign Relations Subcommittee hearing is the latest anti-trans attack from Republican lawmakers in the wake of Donald Trump's inauguration. and his obvious streak of actions targeting transgender Americans, including an order that flatly denies the existence of trans, non-binary, and intersex people. This is an article by Alex Woodward from The Independent. After Republican Representative Keith Self addressed McBride as the gentleman from Delaware, she replied, "Thank you, Madam Chair," which I thought was kind of cute. Because he's a dude. And he misgendered her. It's not like he doesn't know. Because Miss McBride presents as a woman, dresses like a woman. Her name is Sarah. Well, a furious Democratic Representative Bill Keating then turned to Representative Self in apparent disbelief, asked him to repeat how he addressed a duly elected representative from the United States of America. I have the video. Let me get this pulled up here real quick. I'll let you hear it for yourself. The exchange.
The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
That's where it starts. Refers to him as, or to her as Mr. McBride.
As the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
could you repeat your introduction again, please?
That's Representative Keating speaking up for Ms. McBride.
Please.
Yes, we have set the
Representative.
standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman?
the
Would you
standard-
repeat what you just said when
I-
you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I mean, I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Yep. Then Keith Self immediately throws the gavel down, says, "We are done here," without saying those words, and just says, "The meeting's adjourned." "You will not continue it with me here unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way," Mr. Keating said. Representative Keating said. Representative Self then adjourned the hearing. He defended his actions on X, writing, quote, "It is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female," using Trump's executive order, echoing Trump's executive order, eliminating federal recognition of trans people and inaccurately stating that there are only two sexes without accounting for intersex people. McBride has routinely been the target of anti-trans attacks, discriminatory rhetoric from her colleagues, including Nancy Mace. Last month, Republican Mary Miller referred to McBride as the gentleman from Delaware during remarks on the House floor. She wrote on X, "I refuse to deny biological reality. President Trump restored biological truth in the federal government, and I refuse to perpetuate the lie that gender is open to our interpretation. It is not." That is what Republican Representative Mary Miller said on X. Republican Representative Nancy Mace frequently misgenders and spreads false claims about trans people and has repeatedly used a transphobic slur on social media and in congressional hearings. She introduced a resolution to ban trans women from using women's restrooms in response to Miss McBride's election. House Speaker Mike Johnson then adopted the ban for the rules of the 119th Congress. So that has never been a rule. And Nancy Mace comes out and says, "We're going to pass a resolution banning trans women from using women's restrooms." Just so happened that it lined up with Representative McBride's election as a congressperson from Delaware. Nancy Mace has incorrectly said affirming care is there to sterilize our children and that children experience temporary gender dysphoria due to being on the autism spectrum, which is false. The attacks have, until now, faced little protest from Democratic members of Congress. Trump's administration, meanwhile, is facing an onslaught of lawsuits for a series of actions targeting trans people in an effort to bar them from public life. Again, my question to you is this. Do you care? Is it that big of a deal? We're not talking about a child. We're talking about a duly elected congressperson who was voted in by their constituent, voted in by the electorate, by the populace of the state of Delaware, won fair and square. The president has pressured schools and athletic organizations to ban trans women and girls from competing in women's sports, threatened funding for hospitals that provide gender-affirming care to people under the age of 19 years old, and banned trans people from serving in all branches of the U.S. military. You know, of the people in America that identify as trans, it is roughly 0.5% of the citizens of these United States. In college athletics, in a recent study and poll, it appears at most 24 athletes out of the thousands of collegiate athletes identify as trans, and less than 12 compete. But he also went on to ban trans people from serving in all branches of the U.S. military. Trans service members, including roughly 24 people who are suing the administration to reverse the ban, are beginning to receive notices from the Defense Department, officials said, that they will be removed from their posts. So what do you think? Incarcerated trans women are also suing the administration after Trump's gender order directed the Bureau of Prisons to move trans women into men's prisons and cut off their access to gender-affirming care. Last month, during a confrontation at the White House, the president threatened the Democratic governor of Maine to comply with his executive order banning trans women and girls from women's sports or risk losing federal funding. Governor Janet Mills of Maine says, "Then we will see you in court." Again, if we can have the debate about sports, we can. But when it comes to a duly elected official, somebody of sound mind and body who is elected by the people of Delaware, how does that affect you? How are transgender people existing taking away any of your rights or civil liberties? How are people who are a part of the LGBTQ plus community affecting your life in any negative fashion? I can go ahead and tell you they're not. They're not. This is to me, it harkens back to 80s, 90s, even into the early 2000s, when the problem was just the gays, right? Queer people. People were upset because, you know, Ellen came out on her television show, and I'm not an Ellen DeGeneres person. She apparently is not a very good human. She treats people who work for her poorly, allegedly. But Ellen coming out on television saying that was bad. It's eroding the moral fabric of our society by them existing. I don't see that. I don't see that. I have many friends, family members, loved ones that I am in contact with and associate with on a regular basis that are trans, bisexual, homosexual, And to be completely honest with you, it doesn't come up in conversation, and it's never something that I think about. They're just folks like you and I. From the comment section, Carly Fagan says, I think the most insane part of all that is how much of importance it holds to the Republicans when there's so many actual issues. I agree 100%. I can't wrap my head around this being such an issue at the top of the list. This is the hill you're going to die on. And I don't understand that. And I refuse to understand it. Religious beliefs. Okay. That's your religious belief. One thing you have to understand about religion, the rules of your religion tells you what you can and cannot do. It does not tell me what I can and cannot do. That's not my religion. That's yours. But again, to Carly's point, she says it's insane how much importance this holds to the Republicans when there's so many actual issues. Well, I was having a great conversation on the show yesterday with Justin Lachey, where he was saying, he was talking about homeless vets, how we need to take care of homeless vets, and he would much rather some of the money coming from wasteful spending in government agencies, money possibly going overseas to foreign wars, be it, everybody wants to bring up Ukraine, no one wants to bring up Israel, but to those kind of foreign wars, would rather that money go to vets. And I said, yes, I understand. I think that we all can agree that we would like to see homeless vets and mental illness in vets be addressed, taken care of. We'd like to see more assistance for those men and women who served this nation in the military. But that wasn't at the top of Donald Trump's list. He wanted to rename Denali Mount McKinley. Now that was a day one executive order of the 62 executive orders that he signed on day one. That was on the top of the list. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. That was at the top of his list. The trans issue, only two genders, male, female. That was at the top of his list. Fuck the veterans, right? And I'll go a step further. Let's start gutting the VA. Everybody I know who's had to deal with the VA, all the vets that I know say that it is a nightmare to get any sort of assistance or help from the VA. So what can we do to make that better? Let's have fewer employees of the VA, right? But now trans people, well, now this is an issue. This is an issue. I don't get it. Again, trans people existing are not hurting you. They're not affecting your life. None of your kids in Jackson, West Tennessee, are playing against trans kids. They're not boys playing women's sports, women playing men's sports. It doesn't happen around here. Now, you might see some salacious article from OAN or Newsmax or Breitbart or Fox talking about this, but it's just that. These are salacious articles. Remember in the Olympics when they tried to say that in the boxing, women's boxing, that was a man that beat that woman in that boxing match. But it very quickly was fact-checked and proven to be false. That is not a man. That is a female. She's born a female and has always been a female. There's nothing trans about that woman. And I still hear people bring that up as an argument about how, see, there's still, even in the Olympics. But that's not true. That didn't happen. That did not happen. That's not what occurred. We all know that's not what occurred, but yet they'll still use that as an example. There's something wrong with these people's brains. And I don't mean the trans people. Carly says, not steady growing up homelessness. Oh, not steadily growing homelessness or the struggling veterans, or the fact the majority, let me go back up, the majority of average Americans are struggling. Gulf of America, though, woo, says, oh my God, that was insane. It's the fear-mongering that targets a certain age group who looked at Trump as a savior. Yes, very well said. Bill O'Neill says, this is the old okey doke political sleight of hand to have you yelling about the shortchanging while stealing your Rolex. Yes. We need to worry about trans people. You know what's funny? There's been over 40 people in the state of Tennessee recently convicted of child sexual molestation and abuse allegations, and not one of them was trans. 30 plus of them were members of either the clergy or their local church. They were youth ministers, youth pastors, preachers. But we're not lashing out at that, right? Still not a trans person. It's the drag brunch. It's the drag brunch. Really? At your local bar? On a Sunday morning? Between 10 and 1? There's a drag brunch? That's hurting your children? Okay, well, it's not the drag brunch then. Then it's the drag, the book readings. Drag queens reading books to kids. Well, then don't take your children to that, to the public library, or to whatever organization is putting this on, wherever it happens to be. Don't take your kids to it. Nobody is saying your kids have to have that. Well, they'll say, well, sometimes they do it at schools. I know multiple people who participate in drag brunch, drag readings, friends who do drag. I have a handful of friends that are transgender. And I can tell you what, I'd feel a lot safer with my daughter Penelope being babysat or looked after by any one of those people than I would sending her to be looked after by a youth pastor at a church. Because those people are actually molesting kids. Those people are actually doing damage and using a position of authority and power to manipulate a situation in which they can put themselves in a place where they can actually hurt your children. Still not the trans people. It's just still not the trans people. John Lovelace on the text line says, hang or guillotine those that abuse children in any way. Yup. I don't give a fuck if you're trans, straight, black, white, preacher, pastor, coach, elected official, or you're just some dude that works at a box factory. Don't care. You diddle little kids. You do not get to participate in society anymore. And again, I'm against the death penalty. So but that's a line right there, isn't it though, John? That's kind of a line. I almost don't consider that the death penalty. That's different. You took the innocence from somebody. It's the same, and I think you would agree with me, John. That is the same as if you were to do that to a handicapped person. Those amongst us that are defenseless, children, the disabled, the elderly, if you fuck with them and you go harm them, rape them, molest them, steal from them, kill them, you might be eligible for Justin White to change his mind on some sort of a capital punishment, a death penalty. Carly chimes in and says they'd be shocked to see how many old white men were hung and not the trans. Yeah, I think they would be. I think that a lot of people would be pretty shocked about that. It's never the gay dude, right? It's never the lesbian. It's never the trans person. I mean, almost never. I'm sure it's happened, obviously, but it's almost never. It's always a white dude in a position of authority. Almost always a white dude in a position of authority. Now, hey, don't let me give all the credit to the white guys. There's black folks and Indian folks and Pakistani folks and Mexican folks that do the same thing. The majority of them are dudes. That's a fact. The thing about facts is they don't really care if you believe in them or not. It's like science. Don't care if you believe it or not. It just is. But these are facts. It's not your local group of gays. There's not a gang of roving street gays out there, West Side Story style, snapping their way down the street looking for kids. It's not the dude in the white van that pulls up that says free candy on the side. That's normally a middle-aged dude. Straight middle-aged dude. Leave the gays alone. Damn. It's old. It gets old. It's tired. It's a tired-ass trope. But Bill's right when he says it's the old okey doke. Political sleight of hand. Got us yelling about all of this while they're stealing from us. And the sad part about it is that it works. These same folks that scream about the kids. We got to protect the kids. Fuck that. You don't care about kids. You're not pro-life. You're pro-birth. Once they're born, they're on their own. Heaven forbid they get WIC. Heaven forbid they get SNAP. Heaven forbid we actually prosecute these people. I mean, look at what the Southern Baptist Convention did when all these allegations came out. You got all this sexual harassment, misconduct of children coming out, same as it did with the Catholic Church, but with even the Southern Baptist Convention. What do? They just move you to a new church. And you get to resign from that one. Sometimes you resign amid allegations, but you resign and then they just put you somewhere else where no one knows about what you did. To hell with that. John Lovelace chimes in and says, if you mess with folks that can't defend themselves, it's a zero tolerance off with their head. John, you know what? Hard for me to disagree with you. If you mess with defenseless people, the elderly, the handicapped, be it mentally or physically handicapped, and especially children. And what's funny is the overwhelming majority of people on the right, MAGA supporters, MAGA Republicans, MAGA conservatives, and even just regular old GOP conservatives, they'll say the same thing that you and I are saying, John. They'll say the same thing. Special place in hell for child molesters. You touch little kids, you're going to have to deal with me. All that kind of rhetoric, right? Well, until it's somebody they know. What if it's their pastor? What if it's their youth minister? It just happened in Jackson, Tennessee, recently. When? Recently. You remember that? I know you do, Bill, because we've talked about it. Youth pastor here in town. I don't want to. I think it was Northside Methodist or something, Northside Assembly. I forget which one it was. I probably shouldn't have even said that much because, again, allegedly, I don't remember what church he was associated with, but he was a youth pastor and got aired out that this dude was touching kids. Got arrested. Did we hear anything else about that? Did we? I'm going to pull it up right now, see what ended up happening with that dirtbag. Because yeah. John says, I will die on that hill. Yes, sir. I'll die on it right beside you, my brother. Carly chimes in and says, then starts the victim blaming because, quote, he was a good man or he wouldn't do something like that. And Carly, I'll take it a step further. You're absolutely right with the victim blaming. They'll say that about him and they'll say, well, she was asking for it. How was she dressed? Why was she alone with them? Maybe she flirted with them. Or he or she flirted with them. It's a child. Are you fucking kidding me? That's a kid. This guy's 45. This child is 16 or below. Who's the adult in the room? But yeah, Carly, you're right. He was a good man. He wouldn't do things like that. Well, he sure as shit did. Oh, let's look it up right here, John, because I'm curious. It is so sad how many results just popped up on Google from Jackson, Tennessee minister child predator that all say 2025 in front of them. Look at this asshole. This is from February. This has been a month ago. Former youth pastor in Jackson, Tennessee pleads guilty to sex crimes involving a minor. 40-year-old Ryan Kelly McElrath is charged with statutory rape by an authority figure, sexual battery by an authority figure, aggravated statutory rape. The charges stem from a May 24 incident that occurred at Fellowship Bible Church. That's across the street from my house in Jackson, Tennessee, which involved a 17-year-old female. Elrath was working as a youth pastor at the church at the time. Records show that Monday morning, Elrath entered a plea agreement. How? John, if this doesn't light you up, nothing should. He gets a plea agreement? No! You don't get those rights anymore, my guy. You don't. There's no agreement. There's no plea deal. You get what the consequences are. But he enters a plea agreement at the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Tennessee, Western Division of Tennessee in Jackson, and the court accepted it. This comes after McElrath originally entered a not guilty plea, according to records. According to the plea agreement, due to pleading guilty to an applicable offense, McElrath will be placed on the National Sex Offender Registry. Sentencing has been set for Friday, May the 9th, 10:30, before Judge Anderson. He remains in custody of the U.S. Marshals. Details within the agreement show that McElrath could face anywhere between 10 years to life in prison, along with a maximum of $250,000 fine. There's absolutely no way he's going to get $250,000 fine, and there's absolutely no way he's going to get life in prison. I bet he gets, because he pled out, I guarantee that this asshole gets 12. I bet he gets 12 to 15 tops, and they let him out on good behavior because he was a model prisoner. Well, yeah, there weren't any kids around. Put him in Gen Pop. Put him in Gen Pop and let everybody know what he did. Period. And that's getting off easy. John Lovelace over here, he's got a plan. From the 2025 Misfits Market and Expo text line, which, if you want to join in the conversation there, 731-388-9080 to text or call. PJ chimes in and says, "Sup, Justin?" I like how he says evening. Evening, Justin. "Yes, I have 12 nieces, and I warn them often about male role models because not everybody is your friend and looking out for your best interest." Exactly. Good on you, PJ. We got to stick together on this stuff because you're right. Not everybody's looking out for your best interest. There's a lot of people out there who will take advantage of you. My daughter will be 5 this summer. And that's stuff that I hate that I have to talk to her about. And if I had a little boy, I would too. It's not just because I have a daughter. But I'm a girl dad, and it bothers me that I have to, we use real words. That's another thing. We use real words for genitalia. We don't have like the hoo-ha and the pookie and the TT. No. We have penis. We have vagina. The only more slang one we use is butthole. We don't say anus. Get your butthole. Because in my household, we call people buttheads. I've taught her to say butthead, and it's really funny. But we call it penis, vagina, things like that. And talk about, no one's allowed to touch, you here. This is yours. This is your spot. You get to say no, honey. And we don't harp on it. We just bring it up. Make sure that it's in the air so that as she gets older and older, it's not uncomfortable to talk about. But your kid knows that they can come and talk to you about those things in an open way, using the right language so there's no gray area about what they're talking about. John Lovelace says, I swear I would take enjoyment in getting rid of him and giving the taxpayers a break. Yep, one less asshole to feed and support. Carly says, the number one word in those charges were authority. Absolutely. Absolutely. By an authority figure. Having an autistic son, as Carly says, having an autistic son who recently started going to church is horrifying. Yes. My daughter, her grandparents on her mother's side, her mom's parents, go to church regularly, and they take my daughter to church, and it worries me all the time. We used to always make the jokes. My daughter's just a peach. She is so sweet. She's trusting. She's kind. She's a sweet little girl. And she's as cute as a speckled pup under a red wagon, I tell you what. I'll be braggadocious about that. I made a beautiful little girl. But we used to always make the joke when she was little bitty, her mother and I, it's like, we got to always keep an eye on Penny anywhere we go because she's super kidnappable. That's like the kid that you want to kidnap right there. And we joked about it, but honestly, as she gets older, it's like, yeah, no, that's a cutie right there. And she's so sweet. She's so trusting. Carly chimes in and says, wouldn't mind him going to a drag brunch, though. Yeah, going to church scares me. Going to the drag brunch, I don't have any problem with that. But, Daddy, why does that dude have on a dress? I don't know. He's rocking it, though. He likes it. Makes it feel good. He's wearing the hell out of those heels. I'd have fallen down. I'd eaten shit by now. That guy looks like he's having a good time. Or maybe he goes by a she. Maybe he goes by her. Okay, that's fine. Maybe during the workday, that's Jeff with a G. But at drag brunch, things like that, that's Roxy. Okay, Roxy, you're crushing it. You're killing it out there. Back to the Misfits Market. Text line 388-9080, 388-9080. PJ chimes in again and says, I agree, but isn't it sad we have to teach them so young when they should be being a kid? It's an evil world. Yeah, PJ, I agree. It is very sad that that's something that we have to instill into our children at such a young age. As a kid of the 80s, we were taught about stranger danger. Oh, stranger danger. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a little fella, probably not much older than my daughter is now, I was probably in that 5-6-year-old range. There was a guy who moved to our neighborhood in the suburbs of Dallas, in Mesquite, where we lived. And my dad, I begged my parents to ride my bike. This is the 80s. To ride my bike to school. My school was in my neighborhood. It was a block or two away. And I begged my parents, please let me ride my bike to school. Get a bike lock it up at school, my little backpack. I wanted to do that so bad. And they let me. I didn't know until later in life that they would follow me. Which, good parenting. They followed me. They gave me a feeling of independence, but they allowed me to do that on my own. But I was never out of their sight. Well, this was prior to the sex offender registry and obviously prior to the internet. There might have been a registry of some sort, but it wasn't like it is today where you can go look up on your computer or on your mobile device and see the homes where they have to register. You move into a neighborhood, you got to register. And this new guy moved in, and Dad said that one day he saw or noticed this gentleman in a car that was parking near the school. But he wasn't dropping off kids. He never picked up a kid. It was a few days in a row he saw this, and he would talk to some of the kids that came by. He'd give them little trinkets, little stuff. And one day, apparently, I rode my bike to school. And as I was getting off my bike, the guy was looking out his passenger window. Dad walked up to the driver's side. Reached in. Got a hold of the gentleman's collar. And said, I'm not going to hurt you today. but I know what you're doing. He said, you see that little blonde boy right there? He said, you ain't going to touch none of these kids. He said, you see that little blonde boy right there? If you so much as speak to him or come anywhere close to him, no one will find you. He turned loose of the guy and got back in his work truck, made sure I got into school. That guy didn't show up at that school anymore. There were a few other schools around the area. Dad said there were times when he'd swing by other ones and he would see that guy parked at other schools, because that's the kind of vigilance we have to have. If you see something, say something. Once these people realize they've been noticed or they've been seen, they'll move on to somewhere that's easier because they know that they're on the radar now, right? Be like my dad. Be that person that if you see something shitty, confront the person. I see you. And the guy didn't even argue it. Oh, I wasn't. No, I'm not. Blah, blah, blah. Didn't say nothing. Just sat there. Never said a word. Just sat in silence. He knew that he was seen. He knew he was got. And I agree with you, PJ, on the text line. It is very, very sad that we live in a society where we have to worry about this stuff. But again, it's not the trans people doing this. PJ chimes back in on the Misfits Market text line, says, I started working 5 days a week during the summer, starting at 11 years old, lived out south, had yards all over Jackson, traveled alone, and was never bothered. But I would never send an 11-year-old out alone in 2025. Yeah. I couldn't imagine. When I was my daughter's age, when I was about 5 years old, out in Texas, again, suburbs of Dallas in the 80s, we had friends that lived up and down our street in our neighborhood. 3 houses down, 5, 6 houses down. I was allowed to get out and walk to those houses. Maybe mom would stand out on the front porch, make sure I kind of got down there sometimes not. But you just turn you loose. Now, maybe not going, blocks away to the school. Like I said, they'd follow me, keep an eye on me doing that. But as far as walking a few houses down, as long as I was on the same street or like a street over, you could walk and do that. You got a popsicle's chance in hell of thinking that I would ever turn my 5-year-old, almost 5-year-old loose to walk down the block. Not a chance. And it's sad. It's sad. It really, really sucks that we have to live like that. But yeah, we got him right here in Jackson. We got a guy right now taking a plea deal. He'll get out. But he was a youth pastor. Right here down the street from my house, Fellowship Baptist. Does anybody remember Fellowship putting out a big statement? I don't. Fascinating. I just found a website called Ministry Watch. Let's click on this. I'm kind of curious what this Ministry Watch is about. Empowering donors to Christian ministries. Tennessee church fires youth pastor accused of sex crimes, seeks police audit. Okay, in a statement from the church provided to Eyewitness 7 News, Fellowship's lead pastor, Eugene Brandt, said they initiated an investigation within hours of the allegations. McElrath admitted to the allegations and the church terminated him. They said, quote, Ryan McElrath is no longer employed at Fellowship due to criminal charges filed June the 11th. The minister Brandt said the church immediately supported the victim in reporting the allegations to local law enforcement, notified the parents and the students, along with cooperating with authorities. Fellowship is working with an external agency to audit the church's current policies and procedures and provide continued guidance and care for the victim at the church. They said, as a church community, we are absolutely devastated by this, and as a parent, I share in our God's outrage and grief when the innocent are harmed. We're acting in cooperation with law enforcement for caring for the victim and for the victim's family. Following McElrath's arrest, Fellowship Bible Church has removed him from the staff list. Well, I would certainly think so. Shut up. He was arraigned after he posted a $70,000 bond. He got to stay out. Ooh, that should piss you off. He got to stay out until he's due back in court on the 26th. Now, obviously, he's in the custody of the U.S. Marshals after the arraignment. But, dude, Are you out of your freaking minds? He got to go out. He got to be out. It's infuriating. From the comment section of the Peanut Gallery, John Lovelace chimes in and says, the thing is, we can't do anything without getting in trouble with the law now. Taking up for kids and those who can't defend themselves. We get to be the bad guy, the bad gal. Yeah, absolutely. Somehow we're the bad guys for protecting children. I got another one right here. A coach was indicted out of Benton County. A pastor was indicted. Middle Tennessee youth pastor indicted on child sex crimes. The Holiday Church of Christ. Southern Baptist Convention forced to release a list of known abusers within its organization. You can't make it make sense, and you can't make it better. It's a bunch of BS. But again, we should be worried about trans people. And the whole thing, and Bill was right, it is made to stoke the fires so we pay attention to the wrong damn thing. You got Republicans that are sitting in subcommittees, a House subcommittee hearing, misgendering an elected official from the state of Delaware, Sarah McBride, referring to him as Mr., referring to her as Mr., referring to her as the gentleman from Delaware, saying it's a mental illness. So somebody wanting to live according to the gender, and most of them will say, yeah, it is gender dysmorphia. It is. But I feel more comfortable. I feel more safe to identify and to present as a male or a female, whichever. But those are the people who are dangerous. Those are the people that we got to watch out for, right? Not the youth pastors. Not the coaches. Not the ministers. Not the priests. It's so rampant at this point that every comedian basically has a Catholic priest joke. You know who they don't have jokes about diddling kids about trans people. You never hear about comedians making jokes about that. And John Lovelace chimes in again and says, "I'll take care of them for $100,000 a year." Yeah, dude. Make it a branch of the U.S. Marshals. Make it like what was Dog the Bounty Hunter? Yeah, the bounty hunter. Well, I answered the question as I was asking it. Like a bounty hunter, but like a vigilante for pedophiles. And people will say, and accurately, people will say that not all people on the sex offender registry are pedophiles or sexual deviants. And that's true. That's why they have like Romeo and Juliet clauses, Romeo and Juliet laws, things like that. You know, you get angry daddies. You know, you got a boy who's 16 dating a 15-year-old. The daddy doesn't like him. Now all of a sudden they're 16 and 15, then they're 17 and 16, then they're 18 and 17. He graduates high school. Now he's in college. He's 18. He's in college. She's 17. She's in high school. And they'll get mad, claim statutory rape. So yes, everyone on the sexual offender. I got a buddy who's on the sex offender registry in Memphis. He was driving home from a gig one night. He's a musician, driving home from a gig in Bartlett. I will not say his name because I know that he listens to the show sometimes. And just out of respect for my friend. He had to pee so bad he could taste it. His teeth are floating. He pulled off in Bartlett by the sports fields near a middle school. It's 3 a.m. Hops out, pees beside his vehicle in an empty parking lot, gets back in. Before he can get out of the parking lot, there's apparently a couple cops parked on the other side. Before he can get out of the parking lot, they swarm him, they block him in. They got him for exposing himself, public indecency, on a school, and Bartlett don't play. And now he has to be on the sex offender registry list. Tell me that isn't messed up. He's a father of two. From the Misfits Market and Expo text and call-in line, PJ says, yes, John, I tried helping kids in East Jackson as a mentor, and JPD told me to let their community help them. Talk about pissed and heartbroken. Those kids are the future. See, John, you got another one on your team over here, PJ. It is more than a shame. You're right, PJ. It is heartbreaking. These kids are the future. I believe there's a song about that. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty that they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter, right? From the Black Sheep, I jumped back a long time to a different radio show, different radio station. From the Misfits Market, text and call-in line. Another text came in and said, Justin, it's a shame that it sounds brave to talk this way. I miss whenever you were on 101.5, because I know you would be saying these things there too. Yes, I would. Just not using the language that I'm using. But yes, I would say the same thing. And you know I would. I wonder who that is. It's just a phone number. It didn't have a name. You can remain anonymous, or you can let me know who you are. But yeah, and that's probably, I saw 101.5. That's why I went into the Black Sheep Logistics text line. PJ, John Lovelace bounces back here on the comment section and says, let's get together. He says, PJ, let's get together and try to get something together. Bill O'Neill chimes in, says, as a church community, we're absolutely devastated by this. And as a parent, I share in our God's outrage and grief when the innocent are harmed. We're acting in cooperation with law enforcement and caring for the victim's family, Eugene Brandt, lead pastor of Fellowship. This was the original statement from the Fellowship Church. Yep. I mean, you have to say something, but nothing's going to be good enough. We hope, I don't know, that they prosecute him to the fullest extent. We hope that every breath from here on out until his last is difficult. I don't know. I don't know what the proper statement is. And again, they're, a Christian church. They got to watch what they say, I guess. They got to be on brand, I guess. I don't know. Where's the moral outcry? The moral outcry from the far right is that how dare we have a representative of Delaware, a congressperson, a member of Congress who is trans, identifies as a woman, has long hair, wears dresses, and I will say, wears them well, better than I could. Sarah McBride, presenting female, transgender, elected by her constituents. This is where the moral outcry is, right? Not the long list of pastors and coaches and youth ministers. Swear to God, PJ chimes in over here, says, heading into a meeting. I've enjoyed the show today. Hope you have a great evening. Man, PJ, hope you have a great rest of the day, and thank you as always for participating in the show. I always enjoy talking to you, my brother. PJ always has something good to contribute. Every time. But yeah, this is where the moral outcry lies. That's a bunch of bullshit. We can do better than this as a country. They're trying to keep us distracted from what is actually important. But I got to give it to him. As I wrap up the story and move on to another one, I've got to give it to him. What was his name? Keating? Yeah. Representative Keating, he was standing on business. He wasn't letting that happen. He turned to Representative Self and said, no. He said, you are out of order. We do not do this here. This is a duly elected representative of these United States of America, and you will address her properly. Good. Very, very good. It's coming up on 1:10 on your Wednesday, March the 12th. I'm going to take a really quick pause for the cause. I'll be right back. I got more of your stories, news, headlines coming up right after this. I found some interesting things on tariffs that I'd like to address for a second, as well as a soundbite from former President Ronald Reagan. You know, these are a lot of Reagan Republicans. MAGA, Make America Great Again, was a slogan that was used by Ronald Reagan. They say they're Reagan Republicans. Ronald Reagan had a thing or two to say about these tariffs. I'll play that for you when we come back right after this break. You guys sit tight. Welcome back into the show, Factor On and Find Out. My name is Justin White. Happy to be here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. It's March the 12th. 75 lovely degrees outside. If you're not out there enjoying it, do so after the show, of course. Or take the show with you. You can listen to it on Facebook Live and YouTube Live at Factor Around and Find Out. I believe it's just youtube.com/Factor Around and Find Out. I like that platform better. You can close your phone and still hear the show. A little bit of Foster the People, pumped up kicks to bring us back into the show. Appreciate everybody participating in the conversation today. If you would like to participate in the conversation, like John and PJ and Bill, you can comment on the video you're watching right now on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, or you can join the conversation on the Misfits Market and Expo. Text line and call-in line, 731-388-9080. Shoot me a text, give me a call. Always happy to have you chime in. Tell me what you're thinking about some of these issues. So we know that Donald Trump has decided he's going to throw a bunch of tariffs, 25% tariffs on aluminum, steel, automobiles, a bunch of other things out of Canada. Well, the Canadians being how they are, which is also kind of odd that we're like, heck yeah, Premier Ford. You know, his brother was the fat crackhead that got in a lot of trouble. But he's the premier for Ontario. And the LCBO's decided they're going to throw 25% tariffs back on electricity that they're providing to, I believe it's Wisconsin, Michigan, and New York, which will generate roughly $500,000 a day in revenue that he says will go back into the pockets of the Canadian workers around Ontario and that neck of the woods. One of the most populous areas in Canada. Donald Trump responds to that saying, all right, well, fine. 25%? Screw that. We're going 50%. So now we're just in this battle. Back and forth. Tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Well, the EU starts getting involved and they say, okay, don't like this ourselves very much. This is an article from apnews.com. About how the EU is responding to these tariffs. Headline: Canada and the EU now swiftly retaliate against Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs. This article by Lauren Cook, David McHugh, and Rob Gillies for the AP. This is out of Brussels. Major trade partners swiftly hit back at President Donald Trump's increased tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, imposing stiff new taxes on U.S. products, from textiles and water heaters to beef and bourbon. Getting the EU involved, Canada, the largest steel supplier to the United States, said Wednesday it'll place 25% reciprocal tariffs on steel products and also raise taxes on a host of items: tools, computers, servers, display monitors, sports equipment, and cast iron products. Across the Atlantic, the European Union is going to raise tariffs on American beef, poultry, bourbon, and motorcycles. Bourbon, I said that one. Let's see. Peanut butter and blue jeans. Combined, the new tariffs will cost companies billions of dollars and further escalate the uncertainty in two of the world's major trade partners. Two of the world's major trade partnerships. Companies will either take the losses and earn fewer profits, or more than likely pass costs along to the consumers in the form of higher prices. I don't know if you saw it. There was a White House press briefing just yesterday where Caroline Leavitt, the genius White House press secretary for President Donald Trump, when confronted by a reporter from the AP she got mad. She seemed a little scared. A lot of people were commenting on that video saying that she was and actually I'll pull it up. People were saying, well, she clearly doesn't understand tariffs. She doesn't understand economics, because that's one of the things she said. It's like, oh, you're coming after me on economics and policy and this and that. When in all actuality, that's not at all what she was doing. She's a propagandist. She knows exactly what she's doing. Without question, 100% knows exactly what she's doing. See how far back I have to scroll to find it. And at the end of it, she says, well, now I regret taking this question from the AP. What, you don't like somebody actually asking you questions about the policies? You don't like somebody actually asking you questions, confronting you about what's going on here? Weird. I'll just pull it up this way. It'll be just as easy. Because she says it's an insulting question. Let's pull it up on videos. This will be easy. Boom, there it is right there. Let me get this this music pipe down, and I will let you hear this exchange. It should be concerning.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not true.
I'm curious
He's not doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries
Bullshit.
that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
They
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary, go ahead.
Caroline. I have two, if that's okay.
So she got defensive. She got defensive really quickly, and just says straight up, "No, not how this works. What's actually going to happen is this is gonna benefit the American people. How dare you try to test me on my knowledge of economics? How dare you? How dare you? Yeah." That's exactly what's happening. And that AP reporter said, I've paid tariffs. I know how tariffs work. The company that is importing is who pays the tariff. And oftentimes that gets passed along to the American people. Well, they always want to claim that they're Reagan Republicans, right? We've all heard that before. Well, what did Ronald Reagan think about tariffs? Let's see what Ronald Reagan had to say about tariffs.
See, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries,
Which we're exactly seeing right now. Look at the EU, look at Canada.
and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency, then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. See, at first,
that's their guy. That is Ronald Reagan, in his own words, saying that tariffs are not a good idea. He saw in the 30s, sees what happens. This is not a good idea. But they're Reagan Republicans, right? Now, given Ronald Reagan, not exactly the best dude to take advice from, trickle-down economics working so well, Reaganomics, it worked so well, right? It didn't, just putting that out there. It did not work. It did not trickle down. But yeah, I guess even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again, because Ronald Reagan was right about that. These high tariffs, this isn't the way. This is not how you fix the problem. You do not tariff your way out of this. Prices will go up in Europe and the United States. Jobs are at stake, says European Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen. We deeply regret this measure. Tariffs are taxes. They're bad for business, and they're worse for consumers, is what the European Commission president went on to say. The EU duties aim for pressure points to the U.S. while minimizing additional damage to Europe, because everybody's looking out for themselves now. Officials have made clear that tariffs, which are taxes on imports, are aimed at products made in Republican-held states, such as beef and poultry from Kansas and Nebraska, wood products from Alabama and Georgia. The tariffs will also hit blue states, such as Illinois, the #1 U.S. producer of soybeans, which are also on their list. Spirits producers have become collateral damage in the dispute over steel and aluminum. The EU moved. It's deeply disappointing and will severely undercut the successful efforts to rebuild U.S. spirit exports in EU countries, says Chris Swanger, head of the Distilled Spirits Council. The EU is a major destination for U.S. whiskey, with exports surging 60% in the past 3 years after an earlier set of tariffs was suspended. Von der Leyen said in a statement that the EU will always remain open to negotiations. When asked, could there be an agreement that takes increasing tariffs off the table? We firmly believe that in a world fraught with geopolitical and economic uncertainties, it is not in our common interest to burden our economies with tariffs. That's what she went on to say. The American Chamber of Commerce to the EU said the U.S. tariffs and EU countermeasures will only harm jobs, prosperity, and security on both sides of the Atlantic. The two sides must de-escalate and find a negotiated outcome urgently. That's what the American Chamber of Commerce to the European Union had to say. Well, it sounds like you need to go. Someone go get your boy. He's the one doing this. We must de-escalate. They're not the ones who were putting tariffs on. When a bully goes and picks a fight with a kid, it's not the kid who's getting his ass kicked. It's not his responsibility to de-escalate. It's a parallel. It's an easy parallel to draw between Russia and the Ukraine. The easiest way to stop the war is for Russia to stop doing a war. So the easiest way to de-escalate and find a negotiated outcome urgently, which is what the American Chamber of Commerce to the EU is trying to say, would be to stop tariffing the hell out of our trade partners. This is not difficult. Trump slapped similar tariffs on EU steel and aluminum during his first term in office, which enraged Europeans and other allies. The EU also imposed countermeasures in retaliation at the time, raising tariffs on U.S.-made motorcycles, bourbon, peanut butter, and jeans, amongst other items. This time, the EU action will involve two steps. First, April 1st, coming up, The commission is going to reimpose taxes that were in effect from 2018 to 2020, which were suspended under the Biden administration. Then on April the 13th, come the additional duties targeting $18 billion. That's 19.6 billion US. On U.S. exports. EU Trade Commissioner, he traveled to Washington last month in an effort to head off some of these tariffs, meeting with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, as well as some other top trade officials. He said on Wednesday that it became clear during the trip that the EU is not the problem. I argued to avoid the unnecessary burden of measures and countermeasures, but you need a partner for that. You need both hands to clap. That's what he told reporters at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, France. Canada is imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow morning, 25% reciprocal tax on steel products, which will be worth about $8.7 billion U.S. Aluminum, about $2 billion. And additional imported U.S. goods worth about $9 billion for a total of $29.8 billion Canadian. That's about $20 billion U.S. And whose fault is this? Donald Trump. This was his idea. It's his baby. Without question, no exceptions. It is his baby. So when the cost of stuff goes up, you know who to blame. They want to blame, the price of gas on the president. They want to blame all these things on the president, the Republicans, MAGA, GOP. That's what they want to do. Okay, well, how are you gonna dance your way out of this one? How are you gonna get away with saying anything other than the truth, which is, this was your president and your administration's fault for these prices going up? Carolyn Leavitt in the White House briefing room said just yesterday that it is not a tax. It is not. It's weird how every economist alive disagrees with that. Every single one of them disagrees with that. So who do we trust here? Do we trust every economist on the globe, or do we trust the White House press secretary, who clearly has an agenda and is nothing short of a propagandist? I'm going with all the economists. Just for me and mine, I'm going with all the economists. The EU, they could lose up to 3.7 million tons of steel. The United States is the second biggest exporter market for the EU steel producers. It represents about 16% of the total EU steel exports. The EU estimates that the annual trade volume between both sides stands at about $1.5 trillion, representing about 30% of all global trade. While the bloc has a substantial export surplus in goods, it says that this is partly offset by the U.S. surplus in the trade services. There's literally no other way to look at this. But again, we should be worried about trans people, right? It's infuriating. The fact that we live in such a technologically advanced era where we can see it with our own eyes. We have the wealth of all human knowledge and information, previous and present, in our pockets at all times. It makes it very difficult to claim that you're uninformed. You're either willfully ignorant, willfully uninformed, or you just don't give a shit. I'm just going to believe what comes out of the White House. I'm just going to believe what the Republicans say. I'm just going to believe what the Democrats say. I'm just going to believe. How about we not just believe what someone says? We just take a just a second. Do our due diligence, look into the facts, and see what's actually happening here. This is going to affect every single one of us. Every single one of us is going to be affected by this. They do not care. They do not care. I'm going to pivot slightly. Let me get this pipe down. I want to end on this today. Pivot just ever so slightly to this gentleman, Abraham Piper. Get this to refresh here. I thought this was an interesting take. About the orphan crushing machine. I don't know if you've ever heard this used. I think it's worth a listen real quick.
The orphan crushing machine. It sounds a bit Dickensian, but it was actually invented in 2020. It's a thought
Well, goodness.
experiment of sorts, devised by an anonymous, now defunct Twitter account.
Well, if not, I can get to it tomorrow.
To demonstrate the insanity that underlies many of the...
Yeah, I'm going to have to get that to load. It's not the end of the world. We'll cover that tomorrow a little bit. It's 1:37 on your Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. I got a couple things I got to take care of. So we did almost 3 hours today, and I'm proud of what we did. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for participating. It always means a whole lot to me when you guys decide y'all want to chime in. I appreciate it very much. Until tomorrow, be nice to each other. Be kind out there. You don't know what other folks are going through. Little kindness goes a long way. It really does. One of my favorites that I like to say is compliments are free. If you see somebody with a shirt on that you like, just tell them, hey man, I like that shirt. Looks good on you. Cool hat. Dig your shoes. It doesn't have to be something physical. You can say, hey, I saw you hold that door for that guy a second ago. That was really kind of you. I appreciate your kindness. Thanks for putting that out into the world. It might be the only compliment somebody gets that day. You never know. It might be the only compliment somebody gets that week. Try to be kind. Try to be nice as you're going throughout your life, throughout your day-to-day. And I'll see you guys back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. 11 to 2. Or close to it. Until then, I love you like chicken. You guys behave yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do without naming it after me, and I'll see you back tomorrow.